Hello and welcome to another Pitch Football pre-season video. I'm joined by Chris, West Brom fan from West Brom podcast Albion Analysis. Chris, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad at all. Happy to be here.
We'll jump straight into it. Steve Bruce.
Why does everyone start at Steve Bruce? Genuinely, I understand why everybody does. Yeah. I think he is, because we were talking about this on Albion Analysis this week. I don't think he's the most significant part of this season. Look, we've got promoted a number of times from this division. We haven't always had the greatest managers in the world. We've had some good managers who've got us out the division. Don't get me wrong. Tony Mowbray did an unbelievable job, but I mean, I always remember James Morrison came out with a quote which was said a bit tongue in cheek when Roberto Di Matteo got us promoted. He was a bit giddy on the pitch after the game, and they asked him what role Robbie had played in the promotion. He jokingly said, "This squad's so good, I think we'd have got promoted without a manager." And we aren't that level. This squad is not that level. But what I do think is, you look through our side now with the business we've done in the summer. DK up front, Wallace on the right, Diangana on the left. John Swift in behind, Yokoslu when he's back fit in midfield. I mean, I think you do well not to get that squad into the playoffs, and I think people are talking about Bruce like he's this terrible manager and he's going to hold us back. He's got multiple promotions out of this league. He's not a terrible manager. Is he Wilder? No. Is he Dean Smith? No. But he is a capable manager who has got one of the best squads in the division, and that's where I see us at the moment.
It's an interesting point you come on to that, because I think Steve Bruce will have a lot to prove as well. I don't think this is his last ever chance, but after what happened at Newcastle, he will feel all done by. Everybody puts Rafa Benitez on a podium when, by all accounts, Steve Bruce did just as well. So yes. I think he'll want to prove a lot of people wrong. So as we start with Steve Bruce, and you mentioned the business you've done, it has been an unbelievable transfer window for you. Do you think that he will win a lot of people over, or do you think his football might not suit the players that he's got?
No. Well, they're his players, yeah. So it should suit. It should suit. If we're talking negative football, the squad we had was negative at the end of last season, because Valérien Ismaël built a squad where he didn't want to have number 10s. He wanted to play this system that basically bypassed the midfield and got the ball up to his front three very, very quickly. He wanted DK from the start of last season. He didn't get him till January, and then he got injured after about 25 minutes. No, sorry, it was just after halftime. It was about 46 minutes of his full debut. But we had a squad there was a lot of defensive midfielders in there. There wasn't a lot of ball players in the squad. So if he wanted to be really negative, that's what he had. What he's actually added this summer is Wallace, a proper right-sided midfielder, Swift, somebody who can play what we think is going to be a very much a second striker role.
I wanted him at United. He's one of the players that can change a team.
Yeah. He looks unbelievable. And then Yokoslu, who okay, he's not an attacking player, but we know what he can do. He can carry the ball out from in front of the back four and drive through into midfield. And all the talk is as well that Bruce wants another striker as well. Add to that the fact that we hear Robinson is going to go probably to Preston, but other than that, he hasn't really got rid of anyone attacking up to this point. He didn't want to keep Sawyers, but besides that, so actually most of the moves Brucey has made in the transfer window have been quite positive to turn us into a more attacking team. The one thing I would say that I think is worrying Albion fans a little bit is that obviously our side is likely to look like Wallace one side, Diangana or Grant on the left, DK with Swift in behind him, and then two central midfielders behind that. And I think there's a bit of a worry that he might go with like Livermore and Malumbi, who would be two very, very defensive holding players. I think anybody who knows us would want one of those two to be Alex Mowat, because he can actually play a bit and he can get forward and he can score goals. I would be worried if Bruce, for the majority of the season, went with Livermore and Malumbi, or Livermore and Yokoslu, or Yokoslu and Malumbi. I think that would be a real concern. I think Moa is underrated as a massive, massive player for us this season because he's the one that's got to progress the ball out of midfield. But in terms of Bruce building a side, we're a lot more. We've got a lot more attacking options that we had at the end of last season. That's for sure.
You mentioned a lot of the incomings there. You've also mentioned Robinson going out. You bought him from us. You gave us Ollie Burke. Thanks for that. But
I'm not being funny. But if you do that deal, that's as much on you as it is on us for buying Ken Zahor for £8 million from Cardiff. They had our pants down. We had yours.
It's one of those deals where it could have worked in theory, but it never seemed to. Callum Robinson, he had a few highlights for yourself. He reminds me of like the Championship Jesse Lingard. He likes his social media a bit more than his football sometimes. I think he can go missing, can't he? So would it be a big loss to see him go?
No, I think the thing with Robinson is how he's perceived by the fans. He's not, as you well know, he's not a particularly physical player. He doesn't put his body into things. And last season, where there wasn't a lot of real quality in the team, and all we really had was digging in at times. Generally speaking, Robinson went missing in those kind of situations. There was an incident at home to Blackpool. There was a ball that was played forward. It was, I would say, probably 60-40 in favour of the goalkeeper getting there before Robinson. Yeah. But Robinson pulled out of it. And the fans booed his every touch after that until he was substituted by Bruce. That was the end of his Albion career that day. You don't come back from that. So I don't think it's about Callum Robinson's qualities on the pitch, because actually he was our top assist maker last season. He was our second top goal scorer. He did contribute. I think he had 18 goal contributions overall. I think it was 11 assists, 7 goals. So he did contribute last season. But the problem is he'd done a number of things like that building up to that moment, and then he pulled out of that challenge. He got abused from the stands. He turned around. He gave a bit of verbal back, and that was it. The fans were done with him. Yeah. So I think it's a bit more. It's about more than the football with Callum Robinson. Probably not overly helped by him being an ex-Aston Villa youth team product either. Which, as much as people would deny that's ever a factor, I think always counts against any player who comes from the Villa to the Albion or from Wolves to Albion, to be honest. They're always going to have to win the fans over a bit more than anybody else. In terms of, is he a big loss? I think he could. I think I'd flip that on its head and say he'd be a big gain for Preston. I think he'd be a really, really good pickup for them, because I think if he hadn't fallen out with the fans, I'm not sure we'd be moving him on. Let's put it that way.
I mean, it's like an homecoming for him, isn't it, going back to Preston? Looking at other members of your squad, are there any other players you think you're in danger of losing?
No. If I'm honest, no. We obviously lost Johnston on a free. He's ended up going to Crystal Palace, and good luck to him. That was inevitable from the moment he didn't move on last summer. That he was never. I think even if we got promoted, he wouldn't have signed a new contract. So that there was an inevitability to losing him. I don't think we will lose anybody. I don't think we'll lose anybody we don't want to lose this summer. I mean, to be honest, not least because who the heck's going to come and cherry pick players from the team that finished 10th and were everybody's favourites to finish in the top 6? I mean, I didn't see a pundit that didn't have us nailed on to finish in the top 6. So we underperformed so massively last season that who on earth is going to come and nick our players?
It's a bit of a bonus, really, isn't it? You can rebuild and hopefully not have your players cherry picked.
A little bit, yeah, because you've got. I honestly, my big shout. It's not a big shout if any for an Albion fan because we've seen him in pre-season. But I think for the rest of the league, my big tip is that this is going to be Grady Diangana's season. Like he's looked unbelievable in pre-season. All the stuff we've heard coming out of the camp is that he's come back. He looks fit. He looks like he's been hitting the gym. He looks confident. He's happy. He wants to be here, and I think he's going to have one heck of a season. The fact is, if he'd been a good player in a bad team last season, he would have moved on this summer.
Yeah.
Similarly, probably Carlin Grant, another one might have moved on. Maybe one of the defenders, if Dario O'Shea had been fit all season and had a good season, maybe he'd be getting some interest. But the fact is, picking our player of the season last season was a blooming nightmare because there wasn't anybody who deserved it.
Yeah.
They were all pretty awful, to be honest with you, barring a couple of slight standouts like Taylor Gardner-Hickman, who was, a young player coming through who showed himself up really well. But out of the senior ones, no, I mean, there was nobody that you could say over the course of the whole season sustained a really good level. So there's nobody that I can see that why anybody would come and buy them, to be honest with you, at this moment in time.
So you've got Stevie Brooks in, whether contrasting figure maybe. You've got all these new players, a lot of them very good. I see you've got a solid squad to build on as well. So what's the confidence with the fans like the beginning of the season? Because it's always an enigma, isn't it? Because when like you said, you're predicted to do really well. So a lot of fans will have been very disappointed last season. But is there a feeling of we've rebuilt now, we could give this a go? Or is there more of a sense of let's see how it goes?
I think that it depends who you speak to. The thing is, you've got Albion fans. They're quite splintered at the moment. You've got your older group who are used to Albion letting them down, like the ones who remember the 2 seasons in the third tier of English football, the only 2 seasons we've ever spent in the third tier of English football in our whole history, who watched us go 18 years without top flight football and battle relegation and finish mid-table under the likes of Alan Buckley, Dennis Smith, watching Brian Little football, all this plethora of managers that we went through until we finally landed on Sir Gary Megson, who got us into the Premier League.
This all sounds very oddly familiar as a Sheffield United fan. Yeah. I can feel you on this.
But then you've got the other group of fans, the much younger group of fans, who see West Brom as a Premier League club. Because we spent, I think it was 7 of 10 years in there. Might have been a little bit more than that, actually. So you've got one group of fans who realise that that was unprecedented. That quite easily you can drop out the top flight and not get back for 18 years. And then you've got another group of fans who I think view us very much as a Premier League club. I think those group of fans are looking at our summer business and going, oh my God, we are really in for a great season. And partly ignoring how strong Norwich look, how that Burnley are doing some exciting business, that Borough under Wilder look a really good side, that you guys are probably only a couple of signings away from being a real threat, and Watford could be absolutely anything, as we all know. And I think they're really enthusiastic. And then you've got the other group of fans who are just like, we were so bad last season, let's just get in the playoffs. Because that was our worst. That was our worst finish for 25 years. Yeah. I think it was. No, it wasn't quite. Since not quite. No, 20 years. Our worst finish for 20 years. I do apologise. It was our worst finish for 20 years. That was. We haven't finished outside the playoffs for 20 years in the Championship. We've either been in the Premier League or finished in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So to finish 10th was dreadful. And I think so. I think there's quiet confidence, but I think there's a lot of fans who are just like, we were so bad last year that we've got to level up so much, and we've got to go past. We've got to be better than all these teams that we finished below last season. The likes of Sheffield United, Huddersfield obviously have lost their manager, but Luton making some solid business. They'll be tough again. And then you've got the 3 teams coming down. Borough, of course, I really rate. So I don't think there's many Albion fans I haven't seen any Albion fans tipping us for top 2. I think most Albion fans see us as. I think that we'd be really, really disappointed if we didn't make the playoffs. But I think we would. I think we'd be singing Steve Bruce's name to the rafters if he got automatic. I think probably playoffs is probably in and around where the expectation is. I think I don't look at it this way. I don't think Bruce would get another year if he missed out on the playoffs with this squad.
No. That moves me on to my next question. Is one of the last 2 questions. What's your bold prediction for West Brom this season? Where do you see yourselves finishing?
It's not a particularly bold prediction, but I mean, we did our top 6s on Albion analysis this week, and I had us 4th. I do. I think I've got Norwich to go up automatically. My personal tip is Borough under Wilder to go up automatically.
I can understand that.
And I think one out of Watford or Burnley will probably finish 3rd and finish above us. And I think one of them will have a bad season, and I don't know which. So I see us slotting in 4th below that. I think if you probably put our team down on paper as well at the moment, I think we probably are in and around the 4th best starting 11. Maybe not squad, but probably the best in and around the 4th best starting 11. So I would have us. I would have us as probably a 4th place team. We should make the plus. If you want a bold prediction, mine is DK top scorer if he stays fit all season for the division, for the league. I think he is, and I think the way he attacks a ball, he's quick, he's strong, he's tall, he shoots with ferocious power. The guy's got absolutely everything, and I think if he stays fit all season, I think by the end of the season there will be people going, "What on earth is that kid doing in the Championship?" Yeah. I think that's the way.
It's funny you mention it. You say if you can keep him fit and keep him going. Everybody always mentions that Mitrovic is too good for the Championship and not good enough for the Premier League. He always, if you look at Fulham last season, absolutely tore it apart. New goal scorer records. He played in 98% of Fulham's league games. When he gets to the Premier League, he always seems to pick up a knock or an injury, and he misses games. So he never really gets proven, does he? So, like you said, if Albion can keep a solid team together and show the same consistency Fulham did, maybe the sky's the limit. But that was sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, and that's a big thing for us because we haven't got loads and loads of depth in this squad. We have got some decent backups, but to be honest, if you start getting injuries to DK Swift, Wallace, Dean Garner, you're into the players who played a lot last season, which wasn't good enough last year. Touch wood, I'm not too worried about Wallace because you look at his games over the last few seasons and he's played the majority of games for Millwall. But DK's obviously come back from a long-term injury that saw him miss half of last season. Yeah. Swift played all of last season, but the season before missed the majority of it for Reading. And Grady's just suffered with little niggling injuries here and there pretty much for the last 2 years, really. So that's my biggest concern that we don't have. That we might end up not having our important players on the pitches as much as we should have. I honestly think if we get 38 out of 46 games out of Wallace, Swift, Dean Garner, and DK, I think we've got to be top 6.
Oh, sorry about that. So my final question for it is: what is your? Sorry, I'll start that again. I'm distracting myself now by knocking that off at least. So final question, I'm asking this to every single fan I've had on. What away game are you looking forward to going to most?
Do you know what? I'm going to say Coventry last year was a brilliant away day. It was probably one of the high points of the season. I do always enjoy Coventry, and it's a good away day. But I'm just going to say Bristol City because. We went there in the promotion season, and it was just before the lockdown happened, and we won 3-0, and there was just this party in the stands. It was almost like the fans knew that we had to enjoy this while we could.
Yeah.
Because I think we had a midweek away game after that, and then we were into lockdown. And obviously nobody knew that was going to happen. But it was just this amazing, amazing day. And also, what I quite like about Ashton Gate or whatever the new Ashton Gate, whatever they want to call it, is the fact that it's not the new Ashton Gate, that they've done up 3 sides, and they've completely done nothing to the away end. So all the home fans have got craft beer stands, they've got these beautiful plush concourses, and you step into the away end, it's still made of wood. Honestly, it is banter. I think it is banter that they've done that they've spent all that money on 3 sides of their ground, and they've just left us with what they had before. And I also think that's quite funny. But it's a good ground to get. It's not too hard to get to, Bristol. It's a cracking city, and it's just and at the moment I've got fond memories of it. So I would say that the one I'm glad has. No offense, then the one I'm glad has disappeared out of the division is Barnsley, because we haven't won at Barnsley, I think, since 1947.
Oh, that's not a good record.
It's not, is it?
No, not at all.
So
I think I've seen us lose at Oakwell 3 times.
Yeah, no offense to Barnsley, but I am delighted to see the back of them, because I'm so sick of going to Oakwell and not. It's coming to something where there's a ground that not only have we never won in my lifetime, we've never won it in my dad's lifetime, which is a really depressing state of affairs.
100%. I think that was the same as us at Fulham until we won there last year. So you never know, you might break that hoodoo. Hopefully for you, not next season.
Hopefully no time soon. Hopefully no time soon, because I don't see them getting in the Prem.
Maybe in a cup game.
Yeah. We'll do that. We'll draw them in the 3rd round of the cup and go out. You watch.
Oh, no, don't say that, Chris. It's been brilliant having you on. If you're a West Brom fan and you haven't done already, check out Albion Analysis. It will get you through this rest of this pre-season, and I'm sure you do your build-ups and everything before the games.
Absolutely, yeah, and we've just recorded our season preview, so we've done our top 6s and everything like that. So get on there, see if you agree, and then an Albion Analysis on Twitter to slag us off and tell us that you don't agree.
Lovely stuff, Chris. Thank you again.
No problem. See you later.